Simon, how did you come up with the boundary? Talk a bit about the challenges. I mean, I know you wouldn't want to go too big to affect general revenue. You don't want to go too small. You don't want to come back and say we didn't get enough. How do you come up with that?
I think you just had a wonderful answer to your question.
Could you elaborate?
Lorna, I'm going to ask Lorna to get into the physical definition of the boundaries so that we
So I think that the important thing to remember about a community revitalization zone is that the primary purpose is to actually encourage revitalization within an area. So we looked at building this piece of infrastructure and then said, where would it have a positive effect in the immediate area? And so what you'll notice that we've captured is actually to the west, we've also captured sort of the Heritage Warehouse District, where there has been some plans brought forward that have been approved by council in the past, where they could actually benefit from some public infrastructure. And so if we can develop the downtown arena and it has the positive impacts that we believe that it should, then this is the area that we believe that will be the most positively impacted by that infrastructure. We've also gone south a little bit more and captured some of the potential growth there, where there's some projects that perhaps one could say have been stalled and have been perhaps even approved plans that have been on the books for a while but need a catalyst to get them going. So to the south you can see that the site actually captures what would be the Phase 2 site for Manulife Place if this served as a catalyst to spur some increased development there. As well to the north you can see that we've included some of the Karma development, that while there are approved plans there, none of that work has moved forward either. And so these are all the areas that initially to present to council, and they're going to have a discussion about this, of course, next Wednesday, that we said we believe that this particular infrastructure, this arena, could have a catalyst effect within this boundary. So.
Some people might be wondering, as far west and south as 109th Street and 102 Ave, it seems quite far from the actual arena.
So in terms of, is this a large CRL boundary? It's actually not really very large. One could also have said that for a boundary like this, we could have applied it to the entire downtown as a planning area, and we decided not to do that. But it does actually have some potential to positively impact to the west, the warehouse and the Heritage District, and to the south, some developments that have been planned but have not proceeded for a number of economic reasons.
On what basis do you make that judgment? I mean, one of my gravest concerns about this all along is that it could destroy the warehouse district. I mean, if I wouldn't want to live near this arena, if I had $1 million condo there, I'd be bailing now. I mean, how do you know that this isn't going to have a negative impact on residential development in the downtown?
So I think that if we want to then look at the report that actually talks about what this could do for the development of the downtown, we're talking then about examples that we've seen in other municipalities where it has had a positive impact on that kind of development, and as well from a planning aspect, whether or not it actually does serve the things that were captured in the capital city downtown plan. And we believe that it actually is in keeping with those principles that were supposed in the plan and the strategies that are in that plan. But Simon may want to add something to that. That's more his bailiwick than mine.
I mean, I just don't know how you can imagine that this is going to have an impact on Stony Plain Road and 109th Street.
Well, I think obviously when we think of urban renewal, the downtown, the success of Edmonton in the long run, it isn't ever about one project. It's about how do you tie a series of projects together, how do you create that momentum. And certainly from the city's point of view, and certainly council has said for a while now, it's about bringing people into the core, creating that activity, creating that momentum. And if you are able to do that, you get those synergies and economies of scale. So when council was considering the downtown plan, they weren't just looking at a particular project or a particular area. The work that the province is looking at on 108th Street in terms of that part of the downtown is a very positive investment. The work that's taking place, the city's looking at in terms of Rossdale and the redevelopment of Rossdale is another significant opportunity of urban renewal. The quarters as well has been an initiative that council has said is important to them. So the challenge that we have is how do you sort of put the jigsaw puzzle together so that you actually create positive, economic, social, and commercial environment that supports ongoing growth of the downtown. And within that, the model is about activity. It's people having choices to do things, not just 9 to 5, but into the evenings. An arena will actually bring, 300 plus events a year into the downtown core that are actually not happening right now. They are happening in the broader community, but they're not happening in the downtown core. And so there's an opportunity of the value that brings. At the end of the day, it is about, for council, is sort of saying when we look at the arena project, when we look at the work the province is doing, when we look at Moscow, does this start to create the network of activity in the core that is creating that positive impact? And I'm sure that that'll be part of their deliberations as they think about whether to proceed with this project or not. Certainly in physically discussing the location of the arena, obviously having it on the new Nate line is a significant piece of it. Having it close to existing commercial activity is a positive opportunity as well. So that's some of the thought process, but certainly at the end of the day, it's taking a look at that broader network and saying how does it come together. And I think when council thought about providing the zoning opportunity, they said, well, before we finally sign off on that zoning, we want to make sure this works for Edmonton.
Doesn't the report, one of the reports looking at the property tax growth, indicate that downtown has been growing quite steadily as a proportion of the city? So why is the extra stimulus needed?
Well, the downtown in recent years has certainly done well and continued to improve. And absolutely, do we think that's very, very positive? I think everybody thinks that's tremendously positive. It's about keeping the momentum. It's about continuing to create activity in the core. Cities across the world that seem to be most successful, most desirable are cities that have activity almost 24 hours a day. And so that's having activities consolidated in an area. And I think as part of this discussion for council, it's saying, does the arena bring that additional activity that supports everything else that's going on? Has the city moved in a positive direction with the downtown? Yes, it has. And council should be proud of those achievements today. But this is potentially an opportunity to take another step.
How much extra tax benefit would there be because of this arena for the city?
Extra tax benefit?
Yeah, well, you're talking about businesses moving downtown. You're talking about a development that the city would get taxes from.
So the CRL contemplates $160 million of new tax revenue over a 20-year period.
Why?
Because of activity that goes into that area. The thing to remember, though, is after 20 years, that money then goes into the general tax base. So it's not as though you're taking this money out of the general tax base for infinitum. It's dedicated to funding a capital project, and after 20 years, whoever's on council at that time, if the project goes ahead, will suddenly see an opportunity for increased tax revenue because the CRL will have ended its life, and then that money goes into the general fund.
Simon, how do we know that the arena is going to be what produces the extra tax? We don't know that, really.
Well, I think if you look at, whether you look at the Staples Center, when you look at what's happening in Pittsburgh, there are, I think what the general thinking around arenas is shifting to more, have them in the core, don't put them on a greenfield site with a large parking lot,